There's truly nowhere like it. This was my first time in Yellowstone, a place I long dreamt of based off of the photos I'd seen and the stories I'd heard. If you're new here, that's me, Hannah. I'm a travel and nature photographer with a lot of love for our wildlife, especially wolves. I had the opportunity to observe the Junction Butte Pack, or at least that's what I think they were based on what everyone around me was talking about. They laid almost stoically in the grass behind some of the bison until they started to make their way back up the hillside. And while wolves are still at risk in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, they are thriving within park boundaries. Wolves were eradicated from the area in the 1920s and weren't reintroduced until 1995. The trophic cascade that followed their reintroduction was an ecological marvel. Rivers and riverbanks were restored, ungulate populations were managed, salmon could swim upstream again, wolves helped regulate the GYE, and they still do today. I knew all of this before visiting Yellowstone, along with the many other complex issues surrounding wolves today. But I think that's what made this encounter with the Junction Butte Pack all the more special. Observing them from afar only makes me want to come back to this very spot to observe them again and again, maybe next time from a bit closer. While I didn't get the opportunity to photograph these wolves, earlier that morning I did have encounters with many other wildlife, like bison, a couple of young mule deer, and some coyotes. Managing to peel myself away from observing the wolves from afar, I headed toward Cook City to Trout Lake Trail. And this trail was all sorts of beautiful. It was quiet, the sun was shining, and there were a couple of bison even roaming in the distance. Later on, I stumbled across my very first bear jam. This grizzly was hanging out in the meadow on the side of the road near Tower Junction. I watched him nap for a while, roll around, and then start to graze, seemingly unbothered by everyone's presence. And then to my surprise, further up the road, a sow and her yearlings were feeding on a carcass beside the river. I managed to snap a couple of photos from the road above. The following day, I paid a visit to Old Faithful and Grand Prismatic Spring. I can assure you, I have never seen anything like it. Steam rising, light rays shining through, reflections like a mirror, colors and patterns that only exist right there. If I wasn't already convinced that Yellowstone is the most beautiful place on earth, this is surely what did me in. The final stop was Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. Hiking along the North Rim Trail, I saw so many different vantage points of the canyon below, each one unique and beautiful in its own way. But the view from Artist Point is truly unmatched. You get a sense for just how vast the canyon is and how much power flows within the Yellowstone River. That's so pretty. Second to wolves, the final night left me with my favorite wildlife encounter to date. The sun was setting as the sow and her yearling grazed for biscuit root. Though the sow seemed to be on high alert, sticking her nose in the air and standing up on her hind legs every so often, looking toward the mountain behind them. Chatting with locals, I discovered that there was a boar in the area earlier that day, and they suspected that's what she was smelling. An hour passed as I sat there and watched them graze. As it got darker and darker, I reflected on my first trip to Yellowstone, how it came at such a poignant time in my life and all the ways in which it changed me. I truly couldn't believe I was sitting here on the side of the road watching a couple of grizzly bears graze. It's funny how one place can have such an effect on someone, as long as they're willing to receive. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.